Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August 5th episode of Trips and Traps. I'm your host, Andy Serling, flying solo this week. I'm going to start out in the first segment by showing you three maiden races. Two two-year-old maiden races on the turf, sandwiched around a New York-bred maiden race in the dirt. The first one involves a horse named Bonnaroo, a first-time starter for D. Wayne Lucas, with some turf breeding, breaking from the rail. And you'll see as we show the pan shot that he gets absolutely eliminated during the early part of this race. Now, I don't know that Bonnaroo's necessarily that good, and you can see Cornelio Velasquez. You don't know exactly why watching the pan. He completely stays this horse out, and he's eliminated from the race. He's not winning from here. We'll show the end, but let's show you the head-on, and let's show you what happens. The two horse who ends up running eighth in here, David Cohen's, I don't know if he's having trouble handling him, but he's coming over badly, and he's putting Cornelio Velasquez in a very tough spot here, where he's right against the rail, and he absolutely steady out. Now, Cohen sees him in there and realizes the trouble, but his horse is hard to handle, and of course, Bonnaroo just takes the worst of it. He's eliminated. We'll show you the end of the race to show that he makes a little bit of a run, gets himself back into an almost contending position. It's also worth noting the speeds never came back in this race. The horses that were 1, 2, 3, 4 early finished 4, 3, 2, 1, not that far apart. Nobody really gained any ground. Bonnaroo was going nowhere. D. Wayne Lucas is capable of getting a maiden grass horses to do well. He's done okay at different times with two-year-olds up here. And Bonnaroo's a horse that I think might be worth watching. Runs in another one of these races later in the meet. Will be a big price. Was absolutely eliminated from having any chance in this race. Now we'll look at another horse who has a lot of trouble. A horse named Frazee, I'm sorry. I don't know how good Frazee is, to be perfectly honest, but let's look at the two Frazee at the start. This is clearly a horse that has issues coming out of the gate. I mean, you can see poor Edgar Prado almost falls out of the saddle on this one, does a good job staying on. Frazee has already spotted the field a length and a half, but it's not really necessarily the ground that he spotted them. It's the dynamics. This was a slow-pace race, won on the front end by a horse named Moshe Dayan, who set a very slow pace. I don't think it's hard to imagine if Frazee had gotten out of the gate early, and watch how rank Frazee is during the running. And this horse wants to run, and Edgar is in a very tough spot. And watching some of the races, and we're going to show you some head-ons, you really get a sense of how difficult a job the jockeys have, as though we didn't already know, but how tough to get in there, because this field is really bunched. You've got 3 in front, 4 right behind them, all in tight quarters, and Frazee could have easily been in front in this race, setting a moderate pace, instead of being ranked between horses, behind horses, spotting the field some ground. When Edgar finally gets a chance to get this horse out in the clear into the forepath, he has no choice. He's got to go and see if he can make it happen. Now, at this point, Frazee looks like he has a chance to maybe run around this field, but the truth is she doesn't. She's just not. Maybe she's not good enough, or maybe it was a dynamic situation where Moshe Dayan was able to control the race and do what she wanted to do, and Frazee became a victim of herself more than anything else. We'll watch the head-on, and we'll see the head-on the start and see how badly she sort of stumbles in and breaks in, already taking herself out of the race, but then you'll watch down the backstretch, and you'll see just how tight she is in behind horses and how badly it compromises her chances. I don't know if Frazee's a horse that's going to do this at the gate every time. I don't know if she's really that good, but I'd love to see her get a chance in a field similar to this. Obviously, she's not going to beat any superstars, but if she gets a shot and maybe gets out the gate, maybe she'll get an outside post in a race. Maybe that's what she'll need. But clearly, Frazee is a horse that is a little bit better than she looks on paper, and that's what we're looking for here. Now we're going to see a horse that's definitely better than it looks on paper, and even on paper, this horse, particularly the 3, Irma Lee, is a pretty good horse, a first-time star for trainer Bill Mott. We're going to look at 3 different horses in this race, but the 3 Irma Lee, who you immediately saw get stayed out at the start there and get shuffled back, is the one who has the main problems. But also the 9, Believe in AP, we'll get into. It doesn't have problems. Actually, the one who has the best trip of all, but I think through greenness fails to win a race where he may have been best. And then on the outside, the 10-horse Artisanal actually ends up finishing last. She gets in trouble. I don't know how good she is, but boy, Irma Lee's problems didn't do any favors to Artisanal. As you can see, they're back at the back of the pack. And Garrett Gomez does an unbelievable job in this race with Irma Lee. I mean, right there, behind horses, on heels, and John Velasquez is outside, and he senses the trouble, and like any sane person, he just wants to get away from it in case there's any kind of real problem. Now, Gomez, even through this, you watch him right there, does a remarkable job, and we're going to look at the head-on of this one as well, keeping this horse in, but also he knows he can take Irma Lee and put her out in the clear, get rid of the trouble, but he knows she's going to take off and have no chance to win the race. But Gomez actually does a very good job getting Irma Lee in behind horses and attempting to settle her. John Velasquez is just in no man's land, and it is not his fault. A, he has post 10, and B, he had the situation with Irma Lee, and Irma Lee's still in front of him, and he's probably very conscious of that one. Inside of Irma Lee, and we're going to show this very soon, you can still see the Cara Gomez having trouble. They'll separate themselves a little bit as the 10 Artisanal moves up, but they're together. Irma Lee is outside of the 9 Believe in AP. And Believe in AP will end up finishing just ahead of Irma Lee in this race, and there they are. Artisanal is already starting to back out, but keep in mind Artisanal was 4 wide around the track and avoiding trouble, and even as much as 5 wide. Believe in AP has every chance to win this race and just fails to show that burst at the end. I think it's greenness for a first-time starter, and this horse could be okay. But Irma Lee swings out in the clear in the 4 path here, and now Gomez asked her to go, and amazingly, after all that trouble, this horse still is running, and she gets beaten less than a length for all the money. There's Believe in AP sort of clunking behind her and getting all the best of it and angling out. You can just see her. She's lugging in a little bit. She doesn't really want to go around, and finally straightens out, and I actually thought she was second here, but she had no real excuse. Artisanal, I don't know if Artisanal can run, but I don't think she had a fair chance to show what she can do in this race. We could show some of the head-on, but you can watch it yourself. These horses are very ranked during the running of the race. We like to hear your comments. If you have any suggestions, got some comments last week. Didn't really feel they necessarily fit in here, but it's really sometimes up to you. It's Trips and Traps at NYRAinc.com. Stick around for the second segment.